Hi guys, what's going on, and welcome back to another episode of Conqueror's Blade. So today I kind of want to dig a little bit more into the attribute points and how to spend them. So initially, let's at least open up our character page and kind of have a look what's going on. So I did a much more in-depth video, or a lot more sort of statistics-based video, which looked at the sort of relationship between weapon damage, armor penetration, and armor values. And I'll put a link to that in the description down below, or I may end up forgetting, in which case you'll have to go and look, but it was only about a week ago. But I'll try and remember to put a link in the description down below. And that kind of dug into some of the mechanics of that, but I never really kind of explained in a basic manner how I think attribute points should be spent based on what heroes you've got. So let's just very quickly cover the 4 attribute points. If you were around in closed beta, you'll know that there used to be a 5th attribute point, which used to be leadership, but now that's just fixed and based on your level. So we've got strength. The main effect of strength is to increase your slashing damage, your flat base damage of slashing. It does a little bit of blunt damage, but again, blunt's pretty irrelevant. No real hero uses blunt, to be honest, other than for some special abilities, but no hero is built around a blunt mechanic. And you get piercing armor penetration. Agility is kind of like the flip. It gives you your slashing penetration, but its main thing that it gives you is the flat damage to piercing damage. So your piercing damage for agility, slashing damage for strength. Then you have armor, which provides an even 3 points increase to your defenses just across the board on both slashing, piercing, and blunt. And then you have toughness, which just gives you a flat 100 points increase in health per attribute point put in. So I've been playing around a little bit with these, but as a general rule, I've split into my character. I've split a 50-50 build between strength and toughness. So kind of why is that, and how should you spend your points? Well, first off, you kind of understand damage types. So basically, all melee weapon classes are focused around slashing damage. So for example, this longsword, the bulk of its damage, its standard attack is slashing, and the bulk of its abilities make use of slashing damage. This is the same for Nadachis, for glaives, hell, even the spear doesn't really stab very often, so it's predominantly slashing damage. So even dual blades is slashing. So these are all slashing damage weapons. And then on the flip to that is that all ranged weapons, so this is muskets, longbows, short bows, these all do piercing damage. That's their main damaging type, is piercing, because they're stabbing through. So then when you consider the fact, if you'd watched my previous video where I looked into sort of the mathematics of just flat damage versus armor piercing damage, the loose conclusion of that was that flat damage is superior to armor piercing damage. So as a general rule, you're better off having higher slashing damage than you are having higher slashing armor penetration. So with that in mind, if you are a melee hero, you're going to be wanting to largely put your points into strength, because this is going to be the most effective way of increasing your damage potential. However, if you are a ranged hero, so a short bow, a longbow, or a musket, you're going to be wanting to put the bulk of your points in agility, because agility is what's going to be increasing your flat damage. Now, if I was a ranged class, I think it's safe to say that armor and toughness aren't really relevant to me, because you're really not supposed to be getting into combat, and your armor is so light that you're just going to go down supremely fast anyway, and really you should be trying to steer clear of taking damage. So it's much more effective, in my opinion, to be putting the bulk, if not all, of your points into agility to just up your damage so you can do as much supporting damage as possible. When you move on to melee heroes, things get a little bit different. You're going to be wanting to put the bulk of your points in strength like I have done, but then you kind of have a choice to whether you want to stick everything into strength or whether you want to split into armor and toughness. Now, as a general rule, I think most people will find armor superior to toughness. The exceptions to this are the longsword and shield, because I have a self-healing ability called Mercy of Heaven. I can click on the right one, which is restoring 3% of your health. It's 3% of your maximum health, you see, and instantly restore 10%. So by increasing my maximum health with toughness, it makes my self-heal stronger. That's an extra reason why toughness is a good thing to take with the longsword and shield. Same with the short sword and shield, because that's a mouthful. that has a 80% damage reduction ability. So it's already going to be reducing the damage to such a degree that armor is not going to be massively relevant, and having the extra hit points is probably going to be a lot more useful because it's going to mean you can take quite a few extra hits. But apart from that, most other classes are probably going to be in armor-based classes. Armor is not going to make a huge difference to the amount of damage you reduced damage you take, but it's certainly going to make a difference. If you want to kind of dig into more detail about how effective the armor is, then I suggest you go and check out the earlier video I mentioned. But as a general rule, you're going to want to either put all your points in strength or strength and either armor or toughness. Don't split it between the two. So you should be really putting your points into no more than 2 abilities. So yeah, that pretty much concludes what I feel about the attribute points. Invariably, some people are going to feel differently to me. You know, it's one of those things that it hasn't actually been officially pinned down. We haven't got the formula for exactly the changes that these make. It's kind of hard to pin down exactly how these relationships work with each other. But for me, that's kind of how I feel. Flat damage over armor penetration damage. And then for range, full damage. For melee units, either full damage or with a bit of armor or toughness, depending on which class you're playing. So anyway, hopefully that's useful to you guys. If it is, do let me know what you think in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel for lots more Conqueror's Blade content, and I shall see you guys all on the next video.